the history of the town in which we find ourselves. That is the history of Cape Coast. And then, Cape Coast is a town that has a very long and rich history. So to tell you something about this story within about 10-15 minutes, it will be very difficult to give you all the details. So obviously, I would have to highlight some themes in the history of the town for us to get some basic ideas about the evolutionary causes of the economic, the political and social lives of the people. The original name of the town, Cape Coast, is Great or Oguaa. It means, I interviewed some elders of the town and they told me that this place was not actually planned by a person, or it was not founded by somebody who can say this is the founder of Cape Coast. But it so happened that there is another town when we are going to Oguaa, that is Ifutu. Some people migrated from that area to come and settle along the coast, very close to the ocean, because of the fact that they were into fishing. So they realized that more and more people, whenever the fishermen came to catch fish, more and more people from the hinterland came to the area to buy. So some people became interested in moving away from the interior to the area where the fancy men or the Ifutu men did fishing. So as they came to congregate in that area, they traded. So trading activities took place. So the term where in our local language translates as market in English. It is also referred to as kotokuraba. Today we have corrupted it. We refer to it as kotokuraba. But another traditional name of Cape Coast is kotokuraba, the Portuguese. According to the historical record, some Portuguese, the first Portuguese explorers who came to Ghana gave the name Cabo Corso to the place, that is meaning short cape. So Cape Coast is the English version of Cabo Corso, which is a Portuguese. Indeed, we cannot talk about the history of Cape Coast in isolation from the history of the Cape Coast castle. We're not saying that the castle and the settlement were established at the same time so that their lives were intertwined in one way or the other. But then the castle was built not long after many people had moved to its environs to settle at this place. The Cape Coast castle has not always been as it is today. The Portuguese first built a trading post at the place, not the castle itself, but the trading post. Then later the Swedes came or the Swedes came and took control over the fort. And so they were those who transformed it from a mere trading post into something like a fort. Later, the Danes also took over. The Dutch took over. Then eventually in 1664, we understand that the British took over the building from those who had come earlier. Let's say something about the indigenous lives of the people. Obviously, our predecessors didn't have the kind of education that we have today. In the olden days, education was practical, more practical. So if your mother was a trader and your father was a carpenter, you go to his or her workplace with them. Then you study what they did. So that at the point in time, you acquire the skills, the knowledge, and become a graduate. Straight away, you have your job, right? It's not like you have to come to school, spend so many years after school, unemployment, you have to kind of practical education in the colonial times. But with the coming of Western culture and civilization, things change. What I want us to understand is that our original form of education was the indigenous one, but changes occurred in our lives with the coming of the Europeans. Western education started first at Elmina with the Portuguese, the Elmina castle. Then since the British took over the Cape Coast castle from the Dutch in 1664, they also introduced their form of education to the people of Cape Coast. So essentially, in Ghana, Western educated people first emerged along the coast because that's where the Europeans lived. But we all know the major reasons why the Europeans came to Africa: political, economic, scientific, and other factors. But let's say something about the economic dimension, which is more important in the case of Cape Coast. The people traded among themselves. Originally they were fishermen, and some also produced salt. But trading activities took place because of the fact that the fish that the fishermen catch along the coast were sold and bought by people. When these activities continued over time, more and more people came to live very close to where fishing activities occurred. With the coming of the Europeans, more and more people would want to move from the interior and get close to where the Europeans lived, because obviously the Europeans came, their presence contributed towards growth in trade activities along the coast. So more and more people moved from the hinterland to the coastal regions. So ladies and gentlemen, when the trans-Saharan trade was at its peak, the towns in the hinterland were far more important than those along the coast. But when the Europeans came and settled along the coast, the coastal cities or settlements became more important than some of the towns which were previously important in the interior parts of the country. What did the trading activities contribute towards the development of how the trading activities help the growth of Cape Coast? Ladies and gentlemen, trading activities help Cape Coast to develop more than some towns in the interior. First, because the Portuguese, the Danes, the Swedes, the Brandenburgers from Germany, the British, they lived along the coast. We know why they lived along the coast, because the coastal regions were suitable for their settlement, whereas the interior parts were not conducive for their settlement. So those who wanted to participate in this prosperous trade with the Europeans had to move from the interior and get closer to where the Europeans settled. One reason why Cape Coast was very important during the time of the transatlantic trade or the transatlantic slave trade was the fact that the Asante people, who were major participants in the trade, fought with the Southern people on several occasions, and one reason was that they wanted to get direct access to the Fanti area and trade with the people here. Please, before then, it was in 1807 that Asante defeated the Fanti area, and for that matter, Asante influence spread across many parts of southern Ghana. Why was it that before this time, Asante had access to Accra, to Enzima, those coastal areas, the Ever Coast, but Asante still wanted to get access to Cape Coast, Mina, and other parts. It's because of the fact that there were several forts along the coast, but the most important ones were those which were found along the Fanti coast. And there is evidence of the Asante, several of them, various Asante, complaining to the European merchants and administrators on the coast about the Fanti attitude of preventing the Asante merchants from getting access to Cape Coast and trade directly with the people here. This informs us about the extent to which Cape Coast was economically important during the time of the presence of the Europeans and even during the colonial days. And indeed, the Cape Coast, there was a harbor in Cape Coast. It was the construction of the Tama Harbor later in the early 1960s that led to the collapse of the Cape Coast Harbor. I believe we understand that there would be a harbor, an important harbor in Cape Coast, because of the fact that ships would come from the New World, Europe, and carry away slaves from our part of the world. Now, when we consider social factors, what can we say about the life of Cape Coast? Indeed, Cape Coast was and still or has made the point from where British culture and civilization evolved and spread to other parts of Ghana. If the indigenous people had their own way of life before the coming of the Europeans, and later when the Europeans came, changes started occurring in our lives, we have to understand that these changes would first take place at the places where the Europeans lived. Cape Coast would be one of the important places. We're not saying that Cape Coast was the first place to experience European culture and civilization. If you go by this view, then you would say it was Almina. But because eventually the British acquired Ghana as a colony, and the British used Cape Coast as their first capital before moving to Accra, then we have to understand that Cape Coast would experience the British culture and civilization more than other parts of the country. So ladies and gentlemen, it would be the people of Cape Coast will be one of the first people along the coast or in Ghana to become anglicized. So they will begin dressing like Europeans, speaking, and in those days, there was pride in speaking the language of the white man. And so you can imagine that the people of Cape Coast would feel more proud. Miscegenation would also take place, and that would lead to the production of children belonging to Africans and Europeans. And these people would be found along the coast. So when you hear names like Davidson, Williamson, all the Simpsons, they are mulattoes, products of miscegenation. And it's common for us to find them along the coast than it is for us to find them in the interior, because of the fact that as we move from the coast into the interior to God, the influence of European culture and civilization would automatically reduce. As we travel from the northern part of Ghana or the interior to the coast, we would realize that European culture and civilization would be more and more paramount here than in the interior. Fine. So please, the way we behave now, the fact that we speak English, we bear Christian names, or let's say European names, many of us belong to Christianity and all that. Most of these aspects of our lives started from Cape Coast. And so Cape Coast is very important in our social lives. Politically, Cape Coast has also been very, very important. Indeed, there is a view that when the Fanti and the other Akan people came to Ghana, first they settled in northern Ghana. Then they migrated to Boone region, Techumana, Boone East. Over time, as a result of overpopulation and other factors, others migrated southward. And we believe that the Fanti were those who left Boone East earlier than other Akan people. They came and settled first at Bankasi, and it was from there that others migrated to other parts along the coast and established or founded new settlements. The date often given for a major migration from Bankasi to other parts along the coast is 1650. And ladies and gentlemen, Cape Coast was in existence long before that event occurred. Because if Cape Coast was not in existence, how or why would the Portuguese and other Europeans find their part, this area, conducive for trade? With whom would they trade? If there were no people occupying this area before their arrival, with whom would they transact business? Alright, fine. That is one important thing. Let's say something about the indigenous political system. The people of Cape Coast, like all other Fanti, have Asaf companies or Asaf groups. These are war groups. The term Asaf comes from the Akan terms Sa. Sa means war. Sa means war, and folk means people. So Sa, war people. Right? They had 7 groups, and these groups played important roles during their festivals in terms of war, defending the town or the whole Fanti area against their enemies. That was their political system. Cape Coast remained the administrative capital until 1877, when the capital was moved from Cape Coast to Accra. At that time, the reason given for the transfer from Cape Coast to Accra was the fact that Accra was neater than Cape Coast, and Accra was in between Cape Coast itself and Lagos. The British also had interest in Lagos. So if they lived in Accra and something happened in Lagos, they could easily move from Accra to Lagos, and you could also easily move from Accra to Cape Coast. But then, we also have to understand that in 1877, the British introduced a tax, the window tax, and the people of Cape Coast rose up against that tax. That was not the first time that the people of Cape Coast have protested against the tax. When we go back to 1852, there was a similar incident. Cape Coast produced more and more educated Africans who led the formation of nationalist movements, and these movements over time helped the liberation of Ghana from European or British colonial rule. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is something very little about the economic, social, and political significance of Cape Coast in the history of Ghana. Because of the fact that we are now going to begin the main reason why we are here, I would want to bring my submission to an end. Another time we have the time to have